Please like and subscribe and drop down in the comments section and ask us any questions you may have. Thank you. All right, today's video is about communication. Clear, concise, consistent communication. And this is the most important thing that you will ever need to train your dog. Number one thing, if you're able to efficiently and clearly relay messages to your dog about what you like, what you don't like, what you want him to do or her, what you don't want them to do, then you can get the perfect dog. You can get the exact dog that you want. Oftentimes, we are just not relaying the messages or being clear and concise or consistent in our communication with the dog. The messaging is oftentimes muddled. What we are intending for the dog to get from what we're saying and what we're doing isn't exactly what the dog is getting from what we're saying or what we're doing. Not to mention, other people and other things are usually counteracting or directly working against us in the feedback that we're actually trying to give our dogs. The person that we told, don't pet him if he's jumping on you, they'll tell us, oh no, it's okay, I love dogs. And that is the person that is helping to untrain your dog instead of train your dog. First things first, you have to get to know your dog. You have to observe and gather information when your dog is having experiences in and around the house, outside the house, when you're feeding him, when you're playing with him, when you're petting him, when you're touching him, and you'll get a very idea of what your dog likes and dislikes. All of these things will be things that you can use to make certain words or phrases, if you so choose, positive or negative, so that you can use them to encourage behavior or deter behavior as you're training your dog. So, what you're going to do after observing and more importantly, experimenting with your dog is you're going to use what you've learned about what your dog views as negative and what your dog views as positive, and you're going to positively charge and negatively charge certain words and phrases so that you can use them when you're trying to encourage behavior or when you're trying to deter behavior. Most dogs that I see out at the park or in my neighborhood dragging their owners down the street usually have a pretty common combination of things. One, any dog that is performing this behavior is pretty much across the board going to have some physical toughness. This is the reason why that dog is able to take a 10, 15, 20, sometimes 30-minute walk around the neighborhood with the leash tight around their neck the entire time without being deterred whatsoever. So that kind of toughness and dogged determination, if you will, is a recipe for a lot of bad behaviors to be learned. Normally, with people, this is something we applaud, dogged determination. The more willing a person is able to try and fail, try, experience the discomfort of failure, and then get up, brush themselves off, and try again until they find success. That is normally the recipe for success when it comes to us in our society and how things actually work for humans. But for dogs, this is not necessarily the greatest thing to have. So the more determined your dog is, the tougher your dog is, the more physical and more physically and mentally tough your dog is, usually the more difficulty you're going to have in training, especially if you are not the source of your dog's rewards. And this is one of the parts of the recipe that I'm normally seeing with these dogs that are pulling. So I will normally see the dog on a leash and a harness or a leash and a flat collar, and the owner is offering nothing of value to the dog. And as we all know, no one wants to work for a broke boss. So if you have nothing to offer your dog, and your dog can every now and again, or sometimes very often, find something on the ground on a mailbox or a pole, as in sense of another dog, a squirrel, a bird, even if he likes to chase cars. A dog can end up finding tons of very valuable, very interesting, very fun things to interact with as you're walking around in the park or your neighborhood. Meanwhile, you're offering nothing of value. There are some other variables we need to introduce to this conversation. Even when you are offering some sort of value to your dog, and this is a problem I find a lot of clients have, your dog may be able to find things in his environment, especially if you're outside the house or if the doorbell rings or any sort of distraction. Your dog might be able to find things that are more valuable than what you're offering. This is usually one of the biggest reasons why positive only training isn't effective in the real world. It does not account for all variables. And when you're out in the real world, it is almost, especially with every dog, it's almost impossible for you to always have the most valuable thing in every environment. Normally, your dog is going to find what I like to simply call a higher paying job. So most people phrase this as distractions. Uh, I like to call it more so competition because you are competing for your dog's attention with that thing, whether it be a dog, a squirrel, or whatever your dog may be interested in, a new person. And I will explain this a lot better metaphorically. So if we have two jobs available to us and one pays 25% more than the other one does, with no other variables involved, it is very easy for us to then choose the $100,000 a year job over the $75,000 a year job. Oftentimes, it's not as clear cut and simple as that when it comes to us. Now, if we introduce a few more variables, and now that $100,000 a year job, the higher paying job, has a 45-minute commute, and the $75,000 a year job has a 5-minute commute. It has no benefits, and the $75,000 a year job has health and dental for you and your family. And the $100,000 a year job, you don't like any of the people that work there. And the $75,000 a year job, you love the people that work there. It might be a different choice that we're making now based on all these new variables. So, this is what you need to be thinking about when we're trying to convince our dog or prove to our dog that one behavior, the behavior that we are trying to teach, the behavior that we're trying to perpetuate, is a better choice, a better option for him on a regular basis than these more valuables or perceived more valuable options that he's trying to interact with. You and I receive positive and negative occurrences in our lives almost on a daily basis. And everything negative that happens to us is not traumatizing. Sometimes we just take the wrong route home. And the wrong route home equals more traffic and a little bit more annoyance as we're taking our commute home. So in the future, we refrain from taking that route home because we understand it's going to be an uncomfortable experience. Most of the time, when I'm trying to deter a dog from performing particular behaviors, I'm looking at this option. Positive reinforcement has its place, but it cannot solve all issues. We oftentimes need to introduce some sort of deterrent, some sort of obstacle to deter a dog from actually performing behaviors so that our positive reinforcement is now a lot more powerful. It's a lot better option in the dog's eyes when the option that we are trying to eliminate is no longer a viable option for the dog. And most of the time, what we are actually trying to do is influence good decision making. Your dog at some point is going to be left to his own devices, hopefully. And we're expecting him to make good choices. So you should look at this the same way you look at being a parent, if you are a parent. And if you're not, this is Parenting 101. Your success level as a parent and as a dog trainer is hinged on how good are the decisions that your dog makes or your child makes when you're not around? How successful can they be? If you taught them how to make good choices, and what are good choices, then they're much more likely, exponentially more likely, to be successful when you're not around to tell them what to do or to directly influence their decision making. Okay, that's it for today. Drop down in the comments section and let me know what questions you guys have or what you may want me to explain next, and I'll try my best to put that video out for you guys. Thanks.